Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Zhang. Here are some of today's top stories. Hunter Biden's law license has been suspended in Washington, D.C. A survey found that nearly half of electric vehicle owners in the U.S. could consider switching back to gas cars, but some in California seem to have the best of both worlds. Long Island County in New York will ban female sports teams from using sports facilities unless they exclude transgender athletes from playing. First up, Washington, D.C. suspends Hunter Biden's law license following his conviction. We have more on the first son's legal developments. Hunter Biden's law license in Washington, D.C. has been suspended. This came after he was convicted of felony gun charges earlier this month. A court filing by the D.C. Court of Appeals says Hunter Biden is suspended immediately from the practice of law in Washington pending a resolution of this matter. The document says the Board on Professional Responsibility will issue a formal proceeding to determine the nature of the offense, and that the first son has had a law license in D.C. since 2007. D.C. bar rules state that law licenses should be suspended for any felony regardless of any pending appeal. A bipartisan bill targeting the Chinese regime's decades-long persecution of Falun Dafa or Falun Gong passed the House floor today. The bill is called the Falun Gong Protection Act. It would require the U.S. sanction foreign individuals involved in Beijing's forced organ harvesting. The bill would also make it a U.S. policy to avoid cooperation with China in the organ transplant field. It would also make it a U.S. policy to coordinate sanctions and visa restrictions with international partners and highlight the persecution of Falun Gong. The independent tribunal in 2019 concluded organ harvesting in China was ongoing and taking place on a significant scale. The tribunal found that Falun Gong practitioners made up the majority of the CCP's victims. The bill would also need to pass the Senate before heading to the president's desk. 23 incarcerated students in California graduated this month with their bachelor's degrees. It's the first time inmates have earned a four-year education from the University of California. The inaugural class received their education through UC Irvine while serving sentences in state prison. UC's leveraging inspiring futures through educational degrees facilitated the in-person program, also known as UCI Lifted. Incarcerated students can apply to UC Irvine as juniors and work on a bachelor's program in sociology. Governor Gavin Newsom allocated $1.8 million to expand the initiative the same year. The program and others are likely to aim to provide opportunities for inmates and help them stay out of prison. Numbers indicate that 46% of American EV owners are likely to switch back to gas cars. NTD's David Lam hears from some Californians who either love their EVs or have the best of both worlds.
The 2024 McKinsey & Company Mobility Consumer Global Survey shows 46% of EV owners surveyed in the United States said they will likely return to driving gas-powered vehicles. Worldwide, that number is 29% among 30,000 respondents in 15 countries. But in California, a handful of EV owners NTD spoke to said they love their vehicles.
In California, I think it makes sense to use EV cars. Because the gas prices are higher than the other states and there are some incentives to use EV cars.
I prefer electric, so if the gas is the next future again, I'm okay with it too. Hopefully by that time the prices are down.
I could never imagine paying for gas again. I had to rent a car for a week and I was like, oh my God, this is just being at a gas station and spending like $100.
For those wanting to return to driving gas-powered cars, Australia topped the list, with 49% confirming so. The lack of public charging stations was the main reason. The other reasons were the inability to charge at home, 24%, and too much worry and stress about charging, 21%. Some in California say there are plenty compared to other states.
Well, we actually live in LA. And so you get around a lot faster. You can use all the commuter lanes and There's a lot of places to charge, and gas just got so expensive. I hated coming here from LA. I had to charge like 3 times, and that was kind of annoying.
The only reason why I really bought it is because my company gives me free charging. But yeah, I'm okay with the electric so far.
And some say they still need gas cars, such as for heavy lifting and long distances.
If you've got a trailer with cattle in it, you're not going to do that with an electric vehicle, pulling it up into the hills. You know, some people will have to have gas because of this kind of thing.
I like it a lot because my other car is a V8 and I use that for weekend. Yeah. And I still like that sound of the V8 car.
I also have gas car as well, and sometimes for the long travels I use that one, especially if it is like very long weekend. I don't want to get in the lines for the charging stations.
According to the Bloomberg NEF, the upcoming presidential election also caused jitters in the U.S. EV market, slowing down EV adoption this year. In the landmark 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, lawmakers approved $7.5 billion to build 500,000 public charging stations nationwide along interstates. To date, only 8 public EV charging stations have been deployed in the U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg has said that the administration plans to build 500,000 chargers by 2030. David Lamb, NTD News.
A pair of states hold primaries today, with one state having a primary runoff. NTD's Daniel Monahan breaks down key races in New York, Colorado, and South Carolina.
In New York's 16th Congressional District, Democratic Congressman Jamal Bowman faces Westchester County Executive George Latimer in a contentious primary. The war in Gaza has become a key focal point of the race. The progressive Bowman has drawn growing scrutiny over controversial comments against Israel since the start of the Gaza war. In the weeks after the October 7th Hamas terror attacks, the congressman called reports of Israeli women being sexually assaulted by Hamas propaganda. He has since apologized for those remarks. Bowman is endorsed by Senator Bernie Sanders and Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Rashida Tlaib, while Latimer has the backing of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. 538 shows Latimer leading by 17 points. With Bowman's seat being solidly blue, the primary winner is likely to succeed in the general election. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee has invested $14 million in ads supporting Latimer, making this the most expensive House race ever, according to Ad Impact. In Colorado, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert has switched from the 3rd to the 4th District to run for Ken Buck's open seat after his resignation in March. Boebert will face several challengers in the Republican primary. Boebert's move avoids a rematch with Democrat Adam Frisch, who nearly defeated her in 2022. Colorado's most competitive U.S. House race this fall will likely be in the 8th Congressional District. First-term Democratic Congresswoman Yadira Caraveo will face either State Representative Gabe Evans, an Army veteran and former police officer, or former State Representative Yannick Yoshi, a retired physician with the state party's endorsement. South Carolina is holding runoff elections to decide several races where no candidate won a majority in the primary 2 weeks ago. In the 3rd Congressional District, Trump-endorsed Pastor Mark Burns faces nurse practitioner Sherry Biggs, backed by Governor Henry McMaster. The winner will likely succeed retiring GOP Representative Jeff Duncan and face Democratic nominee Byron Best in November. The district is solidly Republican, giving Burns or Biggs a significant advantage. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
A county legislature near New York City has voted to ban transgender female athletes from participating in girls' and women's teams at county-owned facilities after a court dismissed a previous attempt to restrict trans athletes by executive order. NTD's Christina Corona has more details on the bill.
New York's Nassau County Legislature passed a law Monday banning women's and girls' sports teams from using county-owned facilities on Long Island unless they exclude transgender athletes from playing. The bill would require sports leagues, organizations, and teams who play on Nassau County facilities to apply for a permit to use those facilities to designate whether they are male, female, or co-ed team.
This bill would require sports leagues, organizations, and teams who play on Nassau County facilities and apply for a permit to use those facilities to designate whether they are a male, female, or co-ed team. The designation would be based on a team member's biological sex at birth.
LaGreca says the purpose of this bill is to protect women and girls in sports by keeping them safe from injury and ensuring fairness in women's sports.
The designation of sex-specific sports is necessary to create a level playing field for female athletes who have historically been at a disadvantage.
She describes 4 instances in recent years where women or girls were injured while participating in sports alongside transgender athletes. 2 of these incidents occurred in Massachusetts, 1 in North Carolina, and the 4th took place in Canada. This bill comes after Republican County Executive Bruce Blakeman issued an executive order on February 22nd trying to implement a comparable ban. However, a New York court threw it out, ruling that only the county legislature had the authority to enact such a change. The Republican-led Nassau County legislature passed the law with a 12-5 vote after a hearing where more than a dozen members of the public spoke against the ban.
True protection means ensuring everyone's rights are respected, not excluding or discriminating against a vulnerable group.
Under the new law, those not designated as female must be removed from the team. These rules do not affect boys and men's teams or mixed gender teams not separated by sex in Nassau County. Christina Corona, NTD News.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. A New Jersey man allegedly flew to Florida to attack a fellow gamer, leading to murder charges. Federal prosecutors say Boeing should face criminal charges, recommending the Justice Department to pursue prosecution. The national unemployment rate is currently 4%, but one Southern California region has even lower numbers. Those stories and more coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Zhang. Florida police announced the man is in custody on attempted second-degree murder charges after allegedly attacking another person with a hammer that originated from an online altercation. NTD's Christina Corona has more on the story.
Around 2 a.m. Sunday, an unnamed victim who had been playing an online game late into the night was violently attacked in his home while walking to the restroom. The victim's stepfather called deputies after hearing his stepson screaming for help.
When he went to see what was going on, he found his stepson on the ground, struggling with the attacker who was in possession of a hammer.
The victim and the stepfather managed to disarm the suspect and restrain him until deputies arrived on scene.
Upon arrival, they discovered a significant amount of blood in the entryway of the home and the victim's bedroom.
Authorities reported that the suspect, Edward King, 20, flew from Newark, New Jersey to Jacksonville, Florida to confront the victim following a dispute in the online fantasy video game ArcAge. Investigators said upon arriving in Fernandina, King went to Ace Hardware and purchased a hammer and a flashlight. Sheriff Leeper says King gained access to the home because it was unlocked at the time of the incident.
They were both taken to the local hospital for treatment. King was then released into our custody and booked into Nassau County Jail.
The victim had some severe head wounds but appeared to be non-life-threatening.
When the suspect was asked why he did what he did, the suspect stated that he is a bad person online.
Leeper stated that King is refusing to cooperate with the investigation and is currently detained at Nassau County Jail. According to jail records, King faces charges of armed burglary and attempted second-degree murder, both of which are felony charges. Christina Corona, NTD News.
A man who once described himself as a king of a notoriously violent gang in Haiti was sentenced to 35 years in prison. His gang is known for its high record of kidnappings, as well as trafficking of drugs and weapons, killings, rapes, and armed robberies, among other things.
A federal court in Washington, D.C. on Monday sentenced Jermaine Jolie to 35 years in prison. In late January, the 31-year-old pleaded guilty to weapons smuggling and the laundering of ransoms related to the kidnapping of 16 U.S. citizens in October 2021. In a statement, U.S. Attorney General Maverick B. Garland said the leaders of violent gangs in Haiti that terrorize American citizens in order to fuel their criminal activity will be met with the full force of the Justice Department. The case against Jolie is part of an ongoing push by U.S. authorities to stem the smuggling of weapons from the U.S. to Haiti, where gangs control 80% of the capital and have left more than 580,000 people homeless.
Federal prosecutors say Boeing should face criminal charges. They're formally recommending the Justice Department to pursue prosecution. Meanwhile, families of people who died in Boeing's 2018 and 19 crashes are taking new legal action of their own. Here's the report.
You have to hold them accountable in order to make a safety culture.
Federal prosecutors are asking the Justice Department to criminally prosecute Boeing as families of crash victims take their own action in court. In a motion yesterday, they ask a federal judge to appoint an independent monitor for Boeing. It's a renewed request in light of recent safety concerns.
And what we've been asking for the whole time is for no third crash.
Meanwhile, pressure is growing for the DOJ to file criminal charges against Boeing. Federal prosecutors are recommending that step for alleged 737 MAX safety issues.
The company always says, all our products meet or exceed all safety standards. That's not true.
This whistleblower says he thinks prosecution is the right call.
There was several individuals that made very conscious decisions. They knew what they were doing. They knew they were taking risks.
Boeing did not have any comment on the prosecution recommendation. Even if it faces charges, individual executives might not. The EU's antitrust rampage continues, now targeting Microsoft. This comes just one day after he charged Apple with similar concerns. Both accusations carry gargantuan fines. Here's the story.
The EU is now targeting Microsoft over antitrust concerns. It says Microsoft illegally includes Microsoft Teams with Microsoft Office. Teams is a video communication platform that people use to collaborate. The European Commission says including Teams with other popular programs like Word and Excel gives it an unfair advantage. Microsoft faces a potential fine of up to 10% of its global revenue.
This is a money grab. A power-hungry money grab. That's it. When regulators see money and they want to shake it loose, they cannot wait to.
Financial analyst Vijay Marolia says the move will harm the EU in the long run because it drives away businesses. Businesses could leave because all of the regulations and the risk of potential lawsuits.
10% of a revenue stream? Revenue stream is not the bottom line. So the revenue is what you pay all the bills with. Well, what is to stop them from just not doing business in the EU?
The investigations began when competitors Slack and AlphaView complained about the software bundling. Both companies say they welcome the Commission's move. Microsoft President Brad Smith says the company will, quote, work to find solutions to address the Commission's remaining concerns.
At the height of the pandemic, unemployment numbers peaked nationwide at 13%. Today, those numbers have decreased by more than two-thirds. One region in Southern California is even less than the national average. NTD's Bill Thomas brings us more.
Each day, we hear stories about entire retail chains, factories, and restaurants going out of business. With so many people affected by these closures, you'd think unemployment numbers would be skyrocketing. However, the national unemployment rate as of last month is only 4%, and San Diego County is seeing even lower numbers. Hayden Dover is a labor market researcher for the Employment Development Department, or EDD, for the state of California, and he breaks down the numbers for us.
So the unemployment rate in San Diego County was 3.6% in May of 2024, and that was down from a revised 4.1% in April 2024. And it's above the year-ago estimate of 3.3%.
Dover also compares how the numbers in San Diego County measure up against state and national figures.
So this compares with an unadjusted unemployment rate of 4.5% for California and 3.7% for the nation during the same period.
In terms of industry performance, Dover identified the key sectors driving employment gains in the region.
And the top industry sector was leisure and hospitality. It led month-over employment gains and recorded an increase of 2,600 jobs. The majority of that increase could be seen in the subsector accommodation and food services, which bolstered its employment by 1,900, and then arts, entertainment, and recreation rose by 700 as well.
Dover also noted additional industries that saw positive job growth.
And then there was 5 additional sectors that also saw employment: government, trade, transportation, utilities, financial activities, and other services, as well as construction.
For those who are still in search of their next opportunity, Dover says the Employment Development Department offers a range of services, all designed to assist people in finding employment.
EDD does offer a lot of resources that can be taken advantage of for job seekers. So you can find a lot on our website, edd.ca.gov. We also welcome you to stop in at any EDD office location where people can help you, find jobs.
The job market can be tough, and there will always be some level of unemployment. But for now, the numbers are down, people are working, and the government has resources available for those who still need assistance. Bill Thomas and Jimmy Ma, NTD News, California.
Stay tuned for China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer coming up next. The U.S. taking aim at Beijing's gruesome practice of harvesting organs and selling them for profit. The House passed a bill today to protect the main faith group victimized by the crime, Falun Gong. More on China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And that's all we've got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.